behalf of AmWestEntertainment.com and AmWager.com, I'm Joe Christofek, and unparalleled, second to none, in a class of his own. When it comes to coverage of the Dubai Racing Carnival, I can only be speaking about one individual, and that is the incomparable Pat Cummings. And Pat, 5 cards remain. We've got 2 Thursdays, 3 Saturdays. Does that make you sad or excited?
Look, not the question I was expecting, Joe. After all that praise, every Carnival night is exciting, and while I may be larger than some, I am not larger than the Carnival. No man is larger than the Carnival, and for that reason, all of that praise is only as good as your next tipping program, so to speak. So, look, I'm always excited for these days. We had a fairly decent week last week. I'm ahead of you in the Bankroll Challenge, which is very important. I don't know why you're fist pumping that, but look.
I expect to lose to you. What are you talking about? Hey, when you get your best bet to pay $7 and change, and you hammer it in the bankroll, you deserve this kind of praise. But that was last week. We've got this week to cover, Pat, and we've got a lot of great stuff on AmWestEntertainment.com. As always, the comprehensive is there. Free past performances weekly, track his stats, your analysis and selections in greater detail, and also live video on the Carnival race days, including, of course, Super Saturday and Dubai World Cup Day, where we're going to have live chats next to that video, so it's going to be very interactive. Pat, let's recap Carnival Week 6, which was highlighted by a couple of stunning performances.
Yeah, it's tough to find all the superlatives to really assign to this day.
Unparalleled, second to none, class of their own.
You got it. I mean, okay, I guess it is easy to find those superlatives, or it helps to just recycle them from time to time. Look, let's go back to the Firebreak Stakes Variety Club. Very impressive. He kind of got the first wow of this recap, at least, because we had more wows on the card. But, very few horses go to the lead, set a fast pace at Meydan, stay on, and basically the margin never really changed much in the stretch. This was incredibly impressive. There was confidence exuding from trainer Mike DeCock, who has had this horse in his yard. His actual trainer, Joey Ramsden, who has been commuting into Dubai to oversee the preparations, he was exuding confidence. The horse ran like it. They had indicated that not a thing had gone wrong with this horse. And I made him a selection, and a lot of other people did too. It wasn't all that hard to find him. I thought he was very impressive.
Yeah, 15 career wins, I do believe. And speaking of impressive victories, Pat, a horse coming in off a bit of a break who I know some of the pundits were kind of against going into this particular race, but he certainly made a believer out of a lot of people, and that was Long John.
Yeah, whatever question you threw to Long John, Joe, and there were plenty of them, first time on the all-weather, in from Australia, where several horses that have come in there from Godolphin haven't always lived up to their billing, including in the 3-year-old ranks. First off of a freshening. Again, whatever you threw at him, he answered. And he answered it emphatically with a big win in the 2000 Guineas. And it actually led you to the impression of, or I guess the next question, so to speak, which was, who's going to beat him? At least through the rest of the Carnival. Who's going to challenge him on Super Saturday in the Al Bastakia? Who's going to try and beat this horse in the UAE Derby? What you saw from him was a tour de force where he absolutely slaughtered the competition. Emirates Flyer comes up and runs a good second, kind of franking his own form from the Guineas trial. Wednon stayed on well for third for Mike DeCock, but I was just blown away by the performance of Long John. Terry Spargo was, you could hear it in his call, Aussie citizenship aside. Really, it was a double wow performance for me, even maybe more so than what we saw from Variety Club. And look, we saw Sen Chavez for Mike DeCock, Vercingetorix, 2 phenomenal horses that we should see Super Saturday and World Cup night, and then Russian Soul finally getting over the top. I know it was tough for you, Joe. You liked this horse and had a nice play on him when he ran second in the Dubai Stakes.
Yeah, kind of outthought myself. Variety Club, love his stride, Pat. Long John, one powerful racehorse, just imposing physically. Russian Soul, I have no idea why I got off this horse in the spot plays. Would have never guessed he was going to pay $17, but he did. We're not going to dwell on the past. I think that's the theme of this video, Pat.
Turn the page.
That was then. This is now Thursday, February 20th. A new chance for more winners. 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time for the first post. 6 thoroughbred races. Featured races, the fifth, the $200,000 Balanchine, 1,800 meters on grass, featuring Certify, who looks to raise her record to a perfect 6 for 6. Kind of looks like a free space on this card. And if you're looking to try to beat Certify, well, you need some pretty good past performances to try to do that, along with a good eye. And to find other winners on the program, why not check out the Timeform US past performances? They are absolutely free through Super Saturday. The next generation of PPs, perfect for the Carnival, as they put all the horses on a global scale of rankings. Very mobile device friendly as well, so check them out at timeformus.com. Pat, race number 2, the Maidan Sobha Handicap, 1,600 meters on the Tapeta. Lukewarm morning line favorite here amongst an overflow field of runners is the number 3, String Theory, coming off a second place performance and a solid one behind Ottoman Empire, but that was over a longer distance of ground.
Field of 16, as you said, Joe. Lots going on here. Let's start first off talking about one horse. That's number 10, Taylor Said. This is a new Godolphin runner. He last was seen winning the Long Acres Mile in 2012. He was privately purchased out of that race, didn't show up at all last year. He held nominations to some of the big races, but I guess things just weren't right with him. He never showed up. He's coming in off a 6-race win streak, but off of a very long break. I think he's going to get attention on the tote. He's 5-1 morning line, second choice, could go shorter. I think he's a play against in this spot given what we've seen. This is a very competitive field in here, and I want to really kind of focus on our main stat here, our trackist stat of the week, so to speak. 2 horses to focus on, and that's number 3, String Theory, and number 16, Intrigo. These horses covered, respectively, 15 and 19 meters more than Ottoman Empire, a Joe Christofek spot play winner. That distance equates to roughly 5.5 and 7 lengths of extra ground covered. Now, these horses were beaten by 1.25 and 2 3/4 lengths. So, overall, I think this makes them look very good coming out of that race. This is a contentious field. I wasn't all that happy with the ride from Intrigo last time. Sylvester de Souza will get the mount now. He's drawn well in gate 8, but String Theory drawn out in 14. He might have to cover some extra ground. There does appear to be some pace. Our old warrior, Diesel Leader, is here. No, even though he's not going to be in my bankroll challenge this week, I am going to have some money on him. I just have to. He's just one of those horses for me. And we get a fascinating raider in Katuma from Saudi Arabia. This is a filly a mare rather, who they were thinking of maybe going to the Balanchine, saw Certify, entered, said, no, I think we'll go here. I have rarely seen a horse win as impressively as she did 2 starts back in Saudi. She's drawn in 16. So a lot of horses in this race can win, Joe. I'm siding with number 16, Intrigo. Charlie Appleby, Sylvester de Souza, covered a lot of ground. Both he and String Theory back up to 1,600 meters. I think that's a key here.
Yeah, and you've talked about a lot of horses, but you haven't mentioned the horse I fancy here, Pat. Number 1, Mustahil. Dropped in class last out, finished a good second, beaten only a neck by Eastern Rules, winless at Maidan, but appears to have found the right spot and should offer some value at 10-1. And I think it's interesting at the Carnival because I think placement of horses is very important. There are distinct class levels, tougher competition, easier competition. I think this horse is at the right level and should offer a square price and, like you said, a wide open race.
Yeah, Joe, and it is. And look, you can't mention them all. This is one that deserves. I mean, there's a ton of horses in this race in that 10 to 15-1 range, and some will go a little higher, some will go a little lower. You've just tipped him up. He is the top weight in the field, so that will be a bit of an impost for him, obviously. But look, never going to talk anyone off a 10-1 shot. I'm not quite sure personally how good the Eastern Rules form is, but we're going to see him later in the card. He runs towards the back end of the card. Good
point. So we'll find out if that's a key race moving forward. Pat, one of the most visually impressive performances that I've seen the entire Carnival came via the hooves of Caddo Mountain. That happened 5 weeks ago, and the story is not told by that 2-length margin of victory.
Yeah, it could have been a lot more. Mikhail Barcelona really geared him down, as the replay shows. Yeah, a tight hold, Joe. Look, I don't know how good Caddo Mountain really is. The second, third, and sixth place finishers from that last race have all come back to run well. The sixth placer came back to win. The second and the third placer both came back to place in other efforts. The second place horse actually runs behind the sixth place finisher. Saxo Jack and Hoffa Guinea, and then Energy at Davos comes back and runs a good race last week. Caddo Mountain could be in the Dubai World Cup. He's running off a rating of 113, and he really doesn't need to do much more to get in there, except he has no real graded stake experience in this type of setting at the Carnival. So he's going to need another big effort to get that invitation, and if they want it, they're going to get it, we know. This is a fantastic field, though, Joe. Alexandra Palace is in here. Let's go back and take a look at his race, actually. This is him on the far outside, kind of in the orange and white. These are house colors that he wore on this particular occasion. Comes from 15th off the pace. And really, he had a lot of pace to run into, Joe. They went really fast in the first 400 meters. Alexandra Palace soaring home on the outside. It got a bit muddling in there. There was like 8 horses within a length and a half at the finish. Disa Leader, who we talked about in race 2, Johnny Gerudis rides Disa Leader first call, but he also rides Alexandra Palace, so there's a lot of concern. Christoph Sumian off of Alexandra Palace, Johnny Gerudis on. This is also Johnny Gerudis' mount, and there was no one more frustrated when Alexandra Palace won than Johnny Gerudis, the Mauritian-based magician. So he's a little frustrated by that, I'm sure, but Alexandra Palace is in here. We have another Carnival winner in Zane Shamardal. You have horses that I think offer some real value. Samurai Sword at 30-1. He's run well. Start Right ran a good third behind or fourth behind Sen Chavez last week. This is a phenomenal race, Joe, and I think there's a lot of ways in which you can go. Is Caddo Mountain the horse here? He's going to be drawn gate 12, 2,000 meters. You can tell I'm getting excited about this because I'm going in a completely different direction here. While I did tip Caddo Mountain second, I am tipping number 4, Steeler, on top. The Ravens Pass Colt, 12-1 morning line. I think he's the value play of the day. He's going third up off the extended layoff. He ran credibly and was running on Tapeta in the Maktoum Challenge from well off the pace when he was kind of just getting things back in gear. He ran on the engine in the Al Rashidiyah. I think, this is a ridiculously competitive race. We could see a couple Dubai World Cup night runners in here. I think Steeler is the one who pulls a bit of a surprise.
Well, I don't have one on right now, Pat, but I tip my hat to you for that assessment. Personally, I think Caddo Mountain's going to win by about 2.5, 3, maybe even 4.
He could. Yeah, he could. He's going to prove it to me here. He's getting a better field. But this is one of the most compelling races of the Carnival. I'm not saying it's going to be the most interesting, the greatest race to bet, but it's compelling all to see how Caddo Mountain really fares in this next up effort.
Very, very true. Every horse has to pass an acid test before we can truly call them legitimate. And speaking of legitimate, Mr. Cummings, race 5, the featured Balanchine for female turfers, traveling 1,800 meters, certifies 5 for 5. Certify winner comeback race 5 weeks ago for fun. Certify is an overwhelming favorite against 5 rivals on Thursday. Certify is certifiably good.
I'll be shocked if Certify doesn't win. She's the best bet of the day. She has to be. She faces almost all these rivals again. The margin against L'Amour de ma Vie in the Cape Verde wasn't much, Joe, but it was the way she did
L'Amour de la Vida, I mean, she really was game, man. I know
she was all out, though. She was game but all out, and Certify was not all out. Yeah. She definitely had the stranglehold. Flotilla could improve. Pearl of Africa could improve. But if they beat Certify, I'll be very surprised. It's happened before. It could happen again. It's horse racing. She's the 1-2 morning line favorite for a reason. She maybe even go off a little bit shorter than that.
L'Amour de ma Vie.
The love of my life, Joe. The love of my life.
What a lucky girl that's going to be. Okay, so, Pat, we've got the best bet of the day certified. She's going to be a chalk. We need to get all of your selections after we talk about race number 6, which is the Dubai Millennium Stakes. Mujarib was a surprise last time, even surprised the connections, storming home on the far outside to get the job done. But you don't think he's going to surprise anyone this time because he's 2-1 in your morning line.
Yeah, he's a horse that I think could end up in the Dubai World Cup. Joe, I don't know if he absolutely has to go on the grass, but that'll be a decision connections make. They only have so many horses they can put on the turf. 2,000 meters, we'll see how he progresses. I just think this is an easier spot for him than what he faced last time. He wins the Al Rashidiyah, beats Mushrek, a multiple Carnival winner in Mushrek, a really decent field. And Mujarib was almost 25 to 1 in England. He was only 5, 6 to 1 in the U.S. on the tote, which was a bit surprising, but somebody cleaned up, and it wasn't associated with the yard. They were really surprised that he ran as big as he did. A placing wouldn't have been strange, but to really sweep by the field as he did, and frankly, this is an easier bunch. Tazaday's in with a shot. Empoli, who scratched at the gate because he refused to load last week, he's had to pass a stalls test. And I don't think Dasteron is all that impossible breaking from the inside for Maxime Guillon. I went 2-1-5 in the last, but I did have to side with Mujarib. When they prove it that well first up, I think there's value there.
Well, viewers, in case you haven't noticed, Pat Cummings has opinions. I have opinions. Everyone has opinions. That's what makes horse racing so great. And I think you should put those opinions into a place where you can potentially make some money for free. And that's a new Dubai contest at DerbyWars.com. It's running throughout the carnival. Free to get in, but entries fill up quickly. So make sure you register as soon as possible. Last week's winner was Barbara Bowley, otherwise known as Sophia, one of the Derby Wars regulars and a $10,000 winner in a previous contest on Derby Wars. Strong late push last week with Russian Soul and Songcraft back-to-back to take home the $75 top prize. Don't forget to visit HorseRacingNation.com. Horse Racing Nation spun Derby Wars, and it's a great place to join the nation, join the discussion, follow them on Facebook, follow them on Twitter. Pat, this is the time that we always look forward to, a complete release of all of your selections for Thursday.
Pat's picks for the day, Joe. I mentioned Eastern Rules was running later in the card. I lied. He's running in the first race of the card, drawn to the inside for McAlford, but I sided with Anaerobio. Again, it's between, a funny decision here. Christophe Soumillon is on Zahi, Pat Cosgrave on Anaerobio. That combination's also won before, too, but I think Anaerobio is a deserving choice. He actually gets some slight class relief here. So I went with Anaerobio. Intrigo in the second. Hatoto coming back on the grass. I think this is a horse that's being meticulously campaigned after his very good first up run, Hatoto. Steeler, Certify, Mujarib. It's 6 races, 6 words, 1 word for each winner of the night. We'll see if we can pull it home. What do you got on spot plays?
3 out of 4 have 1 word, Pat, so Catamountain's the other one that's got 3 words, but I do believe this horse will win anyways. Zahi, I'm a fan. A very impressive win first up at the Carnival. Maybe a little bit too far and too tough a competition last time. Perfect distance back on turf. Zahi for me in race number 1. Mustahil, a long shot price in race number 2 at 10 to 1. Just missed last out, fits like a glove. Catamountain romped last time. How good is he? We'll find out. He's 5 to 2. I hope I can get that price on him. I'd even settle for 2 to 1. And Tassaday, who didn't get a fair crack last out against Tougher, should be tighter for this 4 to 1 in race number 6. I'll go with the number 5, Tassaday. Pat, the Bankroll Challenge, we both had a winner last week. Yours paid a better price. You had more money on it. Therefore, you've increased your bankroll and increased your lead on me through 6 weeks.
Well, it wasn't so much increasing the lead; it was taking the lead.
I think you were down $3 going into last week.
I was. It was a slow movement coming forward, but yeah. Hey, look, we got on top to $535.
Unlike
but
most thoroughbreds, Pat, I've got 2 moves at least, so be careful.
We're still down though, Joe. So we can't get too happy about who is the least loser, so to speak. Anyway. Let's get into the plays for the week. I've got 4 plays. 3 of them are in race 2. $25 to win on Intrigo number 16. If we can get around that 10 to 1, I'm not sure if we will with Sylvester de Souza. It is a question. It's really tough to assess how the punters are going to take over this well-matched 16-horse field. And then I'm going to go with $10 exacta box, String Theory and Intrigo. I like both of them off of the Track-A-Stat coming out of the same race. And then we're going to use a play pick 3 in that race. We're going to add in Diesel Leader, have to. Then single Hatoto in the 3rd race on the turf. And then I'm going to go 7 deep in that 4th race. Now, Steeler's in that mix there, but there's quite a few other horses that I wanted to use. It's a $21 play. And then we'll take the remaining $34 and put it on the value play of the day, Steeler to win in race 4.
Well, apparently, at least this week, the word place is not in Pat Cummings' vocabulary, but it is in mine because I'm spreading my money around in my bankroll plays, once again playing a little bit more conservatively than Mr. Pat, which is pretty much the way I live my life. Race number 1, Zahi, 10 to win, 20 to place. Race number 2, 5 to win, 15 to place on Mustahil. Race 4, 20 right on the nose of Caddo Mountain. Race 6 will go 10 to win, 20 to place on Tassaday at a square price in that event. And don't forget, every Thursday and coming up the Saturdays remaining in the Carnival and also Dubai World Cup Day, you can follow Pat and I on Twitter, Pat at Dubai Race Night and Trackus Racing, and myself at Joey to K Racing. And Pat, going into week number 7 of the Carnival, any final thoughts before we release the viewers to other things that are happening in their life?
Look, attack it. There aren't going to be too many days left of this where you have these types of handicaps and the weights are as they are. As we get into the heavier stakes competition, things will be a little more on the level. We have fully exposed form on a lot of these horses now, and I think you have to start questioning horses that are just appearing for the first time. So that's where that horse like Taylor Said comes into play, as 6 races in a row, but they were in 2012. So look, it's a phenomenal night. They're all great in different ways. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Certify, if she can improve. And the question of the day is Caddo Mountain. Tougher race, cutting back to 2000. Can he be as impressive as he was early in the Carnival?
You'll have to tune in Thursday morning to find out. Free live video at mwestentertainment.com. I will see all of you in the Derby Wars contest or on Twitter. Don't be afraid to engage Pat and myself. We'll be watching those races and giving last-minute opinions. For the incomparable one, Pat Cummings, I'm Joe Christofek. Have a great race of the week, great rest of the week, and enjoy the action from the Dubai Racing Carnival on Thursday.